Early humans regularly ate raw meat. Sometimes it was fresh, sometimes it had already started to spoil. It could carry bacteria, parasite eggs, and larvae. There were no refrigerators, no antibiotics, and the nearest hospital would not open for several million years. So how did humanity survive that menu? The honest answer is, not everyone did. Stomach acid destroyed some microbes, but it could not turn a questionable piece of meat into a safe meal. Food back then was sometimes so natural that something was already living inside it. Even so, humans approached carcasses left behind by predators, cut away the remaining meat, and carried off bones that looked almost empty. Later, fire changed digestion. Much later, people began making bowls from human skulls. Why risk your life for leftovers that even a lion had decided were no longer worth eating? Early humans were not invincible hunters who walked into the savannah every morning and returned with an antelope by lunch. Sometimes they hunted for themselves. Sometimes they found an animal that had already died. And sometimes they waited for a lion or another predator to finish eating and move away. The important part was not confusing "it has left" with "it will be back in a minute." People watched from a distance and approached when the risk seemed acceptable. One person kept an eye on the predator while the others quickly cut away meat, removed limbs, and collected whatever they could carry. Staying beside the carcass for too long was dangerous. The owner of the restaurant might return. The smell attracted competitors, and the heat spoiled meat quickly. Around 2.6 million years ago, humans were already using Oldowan tools, rough, sharp stone flakes. They looked like rocks that had fallen very badly. But they cut skin and tendons much better than fingers did. On ancient bones, archaeologists find tool marks, impact damage, and tooth marks. Their position can help reveal who reached the carcass first, humans or predators. But why carry away long bones with almost no meat left on them? Because the real prize was inside. Inside a long thigh bone was marrow, soft tissue rich in fat. A predator could eat the meat from the outside and leave the contents of the hard bone package untouched. The bone also helped protect the marrow from drying out and from contamination. The packaging was excellent. There were no instructions. Customer support was replaced by a second rock. The bone was placed on a hard surface and struck with a heavy stone. The first blow often left only a dent, so the bone was turned, the support point was changed, and they tried again. Strength was not the only thing that mattered. A well-placed strike created a crack, and the next one opened the inner cavity. Archaeologists recognize this kind of processing from dents, flakes, and characteristic fracture lines. Fat was especially valuable. 1 gram of fat provides about 9 kilocalories, while a gram of protein or carbohydrate provides around 4. Almost twice the energy in the same weight. For a group that did not know when the next meal would appear, that was a jackpot. Hyenas can also crush bones with powerful jaws. The human advantage was not a stronger bite, it was the ability to carry the bone away, choose the surface, and select the point of impact. Animal skulls were opened in the same way to reach the brain, but both brains and bone marrow were eaten raw. Along with the valuable fat, the body also received whatever had managed to settle inside the food. Fresh, raw meat and spoiled meat are not the same thing. Raw food could already contain bacteria or parasites. But a carcass left in the heat for several hours gave microorganisms plenty of time to expand their living space. The first defense was the stomach. When empty, its acidity can fall to around pH 1 or 2, an extremely harsh environment that can destroy many microbes. But stomach acid was a barrier, not a superpower. Some parasites could pass through, and toxins produced by bacteria could remain dangerous even after the microorganisms themselves were dead. So why would one person become sick after eating from the same carcass while another kept walking? They may have eaten different parts of the meat and received different doses of infection. Age, general health, previous infections, and simple chance also mattered. There was no universal iron stomach of ancient humans. A severe intestinal infection meant pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and rapid dehydration. Without medicine, help was limited to water, rest, and support from the group. But the group might still be forced to move on. So the direct answer is unpleasant. People really did get sick and die. We see the past through the descendants of those who survived enough infections to have children. That is survivorship bias. Successful reproduction hides everyone for whom one contaminated piece of meat was the last. The real turning point began when humans learned to destroy part of the threat before taking the first bite. That new tool was fire. In South Africa's Wonderwork cave, researchers found ash and burned bone fragments in a layer around 1 million years old. This is important evidence of controlled fire inside the cave. But it does not prove that history's first barbecue happened there, or that every human group was already cooking every day. Fire demanded constant attention. People fed it grass and branches, kept it from going out, and tried to preserve it while moving. It was the first kitchen appliance. No timer, no warranty, and no setting for "do not turn dinner into charcoal." Heat destroyed many bacteria and parasites. Meat became softer. Starch in tubers became easier to access, and some foods that were nearly inedible raw became proper meals. Fire effectively began processing food outside the body. The teeth had less work to do, and digestion could extract more energy from certain foods. That matters because the human brain makes up only around 2% of body weight, but uses roughly 1/5 of the body's energy at rest. According to the expensive tissue hypothesis, a more energy-efficient diet may have helped the body support a costly brain and a less massive digestive system. But fire did not create intelligence by itself. A roasted tuber did not turn anyone into a mathematician. It did, however, greatly expand the menu. And that menu looked nothing like the modern Paleo diet. There was never one universal Paleolithic diet. Today, it is often shown as a neat plate of steak, nuts, berries, and avocado. A wonderful lunch. An ancient human was simply unlikely to find all of those foods at the same time, or serve them on a plate, which they also did not have. People ate whatever a particular environment offered in a particular season. In dry regions, they dug up tubers and roots and collected berries, nuts, and eggs. Insects and larvae were food too. They did not need to be chased for long, and the protein and fat came conveniently packed in small portions. On the coast, the diet changed. There were shellfish, fish, sea plants, and anything else that could be found under rocks or in shallow water. The same group could eat completely different foods during the rainy season and a drought. Nature never gave our ancestors one approved shopping list. There is also an archaeological trap. Bones survive better than plants. That can make ancient diets appear more meat-heavy than they really were. A bone leaves convincing evidence. An eaten tuber usually does not even leave a lawyer. The real paleo diet would look terrible in an advertisement. A root still in the ground, larvae, eggs, and a shellfish that had been living peacefully under a rock moments earlier. But one food was valuable enough that people climbed directly toward stinging bees to get it. That food was wild honey. The Hadza are modern hunter-gatherers from Tanzania. They are not living copies of our ancestors, but the way they gather honey shows how much work once separated a human from concentrated sugar. First, you have to find a hive inside a tree. Sometimes people are helped by greater honey guides, birds that attract attention and fly toward a bee nest, expecting to receive leftover wax and larvae afterward. Then, someone prepares smoke, climbs the tree, and reaches the honeycomb while the bees give a very convincing presentation of the security system. For something sweet, people had to find the hive, make fire, climb upward, and endure stings. Some of us need the same amount of mental preparation just to get off the sofa. But the reward was enormous. Honey contains a large amount of quickly available carbohydrate and can provide a lot of energy in a short time. The comb can be shared with the whole group, and once sugar has been found, it makes sense to eat it while it is available. This helped create a powerful attraction to sweetness. The brain remembered. Sweet food is rare, valuable, and worth paying attention to. Today, sugar is no longer hanging high in a tree. It sits beside the checkout, does not sting, and accepts credit cards. But the human menu also included something much darker. Sometimes, humans ate other humans. In Gough's Cave in England, archaeologists found human bones around 14,700 years old. They carried cut marks from stone tools, impact marks, fractures, and impressions made by human teeth. This is not a legend built around one damaged skull. The sequence of actions can be reconstructed from many different traces. Soft tissue was removed from human bones. Long bones were broken open for marrow, just like animal bones. Tooth marks show that some of the tissue was eaten. But the skulls received more complicated treatment. The upper sections were removed, the surfaces were cleaned, and the edges were carefully shaped. The result was what archaeologists call skull cups. One human bone also carried a deliberate zigzag engraving made after the body had been butchered. A purely nutritional explanation seems incomplete. One research estimate suggested that the body of an average adult contained around 125,000 kilocalories. A large animal could provide several times more food without belonging to your own species. Animal remains were also found in the cave. That does not prove hunger was never involved, but it suggests that these actions may have had meaning beyond simply obtaining food. We know that people were butchered and eaten. We do not know the exact motive: hunger, custom, ritual, or some combination of them. Archaeology cannot read minds, but cut marks, fractures, and tooth impressions leave a detailed record of actions. Later, humans learned to control not only fire, but also the microorganisms that change food. Fermentation and accidental spoilage can begin in the same way. Microorganisms multiply inside food. After that, the processes move in different directions. During spoilage, random bacteria and fungi enter the product. They change it unpredictably and may produce dangerous substances. A bad smell can sometimes warn you, but food that looks safe may still contain pathogens. Microbes are not required to send a notification. During fermentation, people add a particular culture or create conditions that favor useful bacteria and yeast. These microorganisms process sugars and produce acids, gases, and other substances that change the taste and texture of the food. Lactic acid bacteria, for example, increase acidity, making the environment less suitable for some unwanted microorganisms. So cheese is not milk that someone forgot on the table and later decided to package nicely. The process is guided and controlled. But there is no magic involved. Not every fermented product contains living bacteria, and poor technique can still make it dangerous. Humans learned to manage microorganisms. Their appetite, however, continued to follow the rules of a world where high-calorie food was rare. Our appetite is not broken. It performs its old job extremely well. Find fatty, sweet, and salty food while it is available. In the past, fat was locked inside bones, and sugar was guarded by bees. Today, food is designed to combine taste, soft texture, and convenience. And it arrives after one tap. No lion, no tree. At worst, the delivery driver gets lost. That does not remove personal choice, but it does challenge the idea that everything comes down to weak willpower. Your brain is working correctly. The world around it simply changed too quickly.